Namaskar viewers. The small satellite launch vehicle is a new generation rocket ISRO is developing for the commercial market for launching of small satellites that is emerging today in India and the whole world. We are very happy to tell you that the first launch, the developmental launch of SSLV carrying two satellites EOS-02 and ASADI-SAT took place today. That's the 7th morning at 9:18 hours. The vehicle took off majestically with its burning of the first stage and its solid first stage, and also the subsequent stages, the second stage SS2 and the third stage SS3 all performed very well nominally. The entire vehicle performance was very good in the mission, and finally when it reached an orbit and an altitude of 356 kilometers, the satellites were separated. Both EOS-02 and ASADI-SAT were separated. However, we subsequently noticed an anomaly in the placement of the satellites in the orbit. The satellites were placed in an elliptical orbit in place of a circular orbit. The 356 kilometer circular orbit was our intended orbit, but it could place the satellite in an orbit of 356 by 76 kilometer, 76 being the lowermost point which is closest to the surface of the Earth. So when you place satellites in such an orbit, the orbit will not stay for a long time. Due to atmospheric drag, the satellites will come down, and the satellites have already come down from that orbit and they are no longer usable. And we found that this issue related to the SSLV has been reasonably identified, but we will go deeper into it. It is primarily due to one of logic that exists in the rocket to identify a sensor failure and go for a salvage option. That means the system has a deficiency which we need to look at very carefully and correct it with regard to a sensor isolation principle. But for that problem, we couldn't see any other anomaly. But for that, every other new element that has been incorporated in this rocket performed very well, including the propulsion stages, overall hardware, its aerodynamic designs, new generation and low-cost control electronics, control systems, new separation systems, the entire architecture of the rocket, everything has been proven very first time in the rocket, and we are very happy about that part. What we are going to do now is to identify this specific problem and why this isolation happened and why it went into a not acceptable orbit. We will go through a very detailed evaluation in days to come through an expert set of people who are working right now continuously from this point onwards, and they will come out with a set of recommendations which we can implement without any delay. And we hope that with the small corrections and further revalidation of those corrections through adequate number of tests, we will come back for launch for the next development flight of SSLV-D2 very soon and as the earliest. And we are hoping that with the second development flight, we will become completely successful in proving the vehicle to place satellites in the intended orbit for our commercial use for India and the whole world. Thank you so much for watching this view of the launch of SSLV and also supporting ISRO's programs for generating Atmanirbharta and also to have indigenous capability to have small satellite launches from Indian soil. We continue our effort with dedication and hard work to make it a grand success. Thank you.